Hey guys, the knife is a QSP Penguin, and this is going to be another one of those first look, first test videos, kind of. I say kind of because I've had the knife for about 2 weeks. I've sharpened it twice, and I have been cutting stuff with it. Now, if you want to see more in-depth, long-term reviews, more cut tests, you can head over to my Patreon page. I have some public videos there. I have some videos which are just for patrons, if you want to, of course. But this, I think this is a good video for YouTube always. Even if I've already played around with this knife a bit, I think I could give you a better idea than what you might get from other videos, at least tell you what I've been missing to hear from those videos. Now, a lot of people have recommended the QSP Penguin to me, and I knew about the knife, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I started looking, and a lot of first impressions video, very little testing videos, and a lot of people compared it to the Civivi Elementum. Similar size, micarta handle scales, D2 steel, deep carry pocket clips, but blade shapes are very, very much different. Now, the Civivi Elementum impressed me very much when I got it. A small knife, and almost everything that people said in their test videos, first impressions videos, kind of hit there. A few things I didn't really like about it, but as a small back pocket work knife, I think it's excellent. Now, one reviewer said that for the price you can get the Penguin, that's about 24, 26 euros, the micarta handle scales alone are worth it. And I don't agree, but I kind of agree. These micarta handle scales are indeed excellent. I got the knife the same time I got the Civivi Chevalier. And even though I unpacked this one first, this one second, this one did really not impress me. Maybe it was because so many people had such good things to say about it, and really, it did not impress me. I opened the knife, the action's good. I started cutting with it, I saw the edge angle, okay, it's a bit steep, you can modify that. Fit and finish is okay, but you can tell from just by holding this hand, this is an inexpensive budget knife, and except for the micarta handle scales and the price, there's nothing really special about this knife. At first look, at least. And I've even considered making a video and saying, hey, guys, I know a lot of people say it's good, but it's not. I mean, I was far more impressed with Civivi Elementum, and this is double the price of this one. And if I were to choose, even now, I would choose the Elementum, simply because of the grind. Hollow ground blade, very thin behind the edge. This one, you can see it's flat ground here, so kind of a saber ground, sort of. But this part is flat, and the edge angle was a bit steeper. I sharpened it to about 15 degrees per side, and then the thickness behind the edge is not great. It's not bad, it's not great. It's about 0.5, 0.6 millimeters, depending on where you measure. Overall, about 0.6 millimeters, that's 24 thousandths of an inch thick at 15 degrees per side. Now that is not bad. That is how your standard Endura will come. However, this being such a thick, narrow for the thickness, short stubby blade, it's not the best slicer. You would have to remove some metal here, either just remove the shoulder or drop the edge angle further to get it to cut as well as the Elementum. Or right now, if I did some cuts to compare it with which knife. So far, I got the cold steels because those are notoriously thick behind the edge. And actually, the Ultimate Hunter at 17 degrees per side cut through cardboard and wood a bit easier because of the blade shape. It's got a nice belly and it's very sharp, but both are sharp. So the handle's more comfortable, will give you more grip. that will always factor in the whole design of the knife. I mean, even if you have the best of grinds and the best of smallest of edge angles, the whole design of the knife will factor in how easy it cuts through material. And right now it's somewhere about the counterpoint one. This is a bit thicker behind the edge. The edge angle is about 18 degrees per side, very sharp, but that's how well it will cut through cardboard. However, having a bigger knife and having a bigger handle, and this one being thicker, sits well in hand, I would kind of prefer this if I had to cut cardboard. More blade length, more everything. So I said I'm not that impressed with the QSP Penguin. And then I did what I always do. I disassembled the knife to look at it and clean it. See, the action is good. I mean, it's pretty smooth. How they achieve that smoothness is they have two bronze phosphorus washers in here and one thin silicone washer that's near the blade, and that's for each side. So you get a very, very nice action. You can flick the knife open, you can just thumb roll it open. It's good, and it closes fairly well. The detent is much better than with other knives, but you can still shake it loose if you try. With this one, the detent is much lighter, but the action is also, it's on ball bearings, cage ball bearings. But the detent is good. So if you just shake it lightly, nothing will happen. Shake it harder, it will come out. Now, you see this, you have a cutout for the liner lock, and you have this rounded jimping. Now, I have that on many knives. You see the Elementum has it. One of my test knives, the Sandman Moon 910, has it. And by far, this is the worst. It's not bad when you're cutting with it, but when you're stropping the knife, that's where the knife will push into your finger and you'll feel that. And just, I don't think it's needed. It's not bad. It's not as good as with the Elementum. The Elementum has it where you don't really have a cutout, you have proud liners, and then you just grab the liner lock and close it. So it does kind of sit very good in hand. Now with this one, because you have the cutout and this knurling, you can feel it in hand. It's not bad. So when you're cutting, you're gonna have the blade pushing into whatever it is you're cutting, and it'll just create distance between this portion where you have the jimping and your hand. So you're gonna feel this part, and this jimping here really didn't bother me. What kind of did bother me was, and I just didn't try so hard, I tried to remove the thumb studs, and they're in there very well. So I'm gonna keep going at it to remove the thumb studs. I don't need thumb studs for a knife like this, because I think this is actually a great work knife. If you're a mechanic, an electrician, a carpenter, this is a very decent knife for 26 euros. D2, they call it a semi-stainless. I have never had D2 rust on me in normal conditions, whether it was wet outside or whether I work with it outdoors or indoors. I've never had D2 rust on me, not like K390, 1095 or other carbon steel. So as a work knife, I think this is excellent. It has that thick grind, and a thick grind is more there for robustness. It's not going to help you with edge retention. I mean, some people think that if you increase the edge angle, you're going to have better edge retention. That is not true. The more you decrease the angle, the better you're going to have that edge retention when you're doing control cuts like cardboard. For abrasive material, you're going to be able to control it, less lateral tension. But what a thicker grind will give you is a better abuse knife, a better work knife, so that if you have to cut into something hard and twist in the cut, it's going to be more resistant. That's not something I want, but that might be something you want. Now, everything is very well rounded on this knife. You don't have any sharp corners, and that's what I call good fit and finish. And once again, I have to say, 26 euros, that is not bad. For 26 euros, the fit and finish is actually stellar. The only sharp corner you have here, that's not the cutting edge, is near the tip. And right here, it's not that sharp, but here near the tip, it can be a bit sharp. And I think that's great because you have this style of blade where when you cut something, actually, if you want to go through whatever you want to go through, you're going to have to lay the whole blade flat. And yes, you can scrape with this blade, but you're going to have contact with the whole blade. But if you want to do something more controlled, you can just scrape with this part, which some people like to have sharp spines on their knife. For some knives, I do. But even for something like this, the Finwolf, which is a bushcraft folder in my opinion, I rounded them off a bit just so they're not that uncomfortable, and even near the tip, so that I can actually help myself and push with the thumb and I won't hurt my thumb. For some knives, yes, I do leave a very sharp spine for scraping, but soon after that I kind of remove it because I prefer to have a rounded spine. I used to always like a 90-degree spine, sharp. Nowadays, I prefer to have it nice and rounded, and this is one thing that this knife does very well. Comfort in hand, except for the knurling here, the jimping here, which I'm not a fan of. Not bad. It's not uncomfortable, but I could have done without it. Very good fit and finish. Now, one thing that they did actually very well is the pocket clip. You see the Elementum, the pocket, you can see the pocket clip right here. So it's on the outside and it screws in and the screws are sunken into the pocket clip. And here, the pocket clip actually goes in this little hole between the liner and the scale, and the screws are on the outside. Now, if they would have sunken in those screw heads, it would have been perfect. Like this. For thinner pants, it's not going to give you a problem. If you carry something heavier, like thick jeans, it's going to snag a bit, but they're rounded, so it's going to go in all the way. Not like some other models. For example, for this model, here the screws were done very poorly. There's a lot of tension on this clip, and for thicker jeans, you're going to have to struggle to get this all the way to the back of the pocket clip. This is not bad, but it could have been done better. Now, you do have this extra 2 screws, which are screwed in here, and they actually go through all the way into the liner. But I don't need them on my Civivi Chevalier. It just holds in, and I don't need them on this. I actually removed the pocket clip, put it back for this video, and I didn't use it with the pocket clip. It does feel a bit better with the pocket clip. It does give you a bit more places to grab onto when you open the knife. And if it's a work knife for you, you might have it loose in your pocket or you might clip it to something. Pocket clip is done very well. The only thing I don't like, it's really a hassle to get out the screws if you want to remove the pocket clip. You have to get them all the way out, and if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver, you're gonna have to attach the magnet to your Torx head and pull them out like that. If you want to just shake it and do that, I've tried it, doesn't work. Disassembly, not bad. However, these standoffs here are free spinning, so they didn't have a nice D cutout. That's going to be a bit hard. And yeah, you can disassemble it, but if you want to take it apart completely, you're going to have to hold, maybe, if one side is tighter than the other, you're going to have to hold it with a pair of pliers to hold the standoff and then remove the screw. Not a lot of Loctite on this one. Like I said, action is great. I wish I could actually remove the thumb studs. They're good. They do their job. They're not aggressive. Overall, this is the way you build a very inexpensive folder. This is that, but very good fit and finish. Now you give it a smooth action. How do you do it? Put those sets of bronze phosphorus washers and the Teflon silicone washer there. It gives you good action. And if you have to remove the silicone washer, you're still going to have good action. And at some point, it's going to wear off. And you still can tighten the pivot. So nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not a crime to have two sets of phosphorus bronze washers. Unlike, for example, the Spyderco Tenacious Lightweight, which has, I don't know, 3 per side, and the action is still crappy. This one actually did it very well. The lanyard hole, not ideal. If you want to thread regular paracord through it, you're gonna have to fidget around with it a bit, especially if you burn the ends. Now, if you if you flatten out one side, then it works better. I personally have little use for lanyards. I use lanyards with some models like this one, where I remove the pocket clip, and it's a bushcraft folder. Much more comfortable without the pocket clip, two-hand opening. So in this case, I will sometimes use a lanyard. Plus, outdoors, it's not bad to have a bright colored lanyard. But if you're considering working with this knife, not a bad idea to have a lanyard on it. If you remove the pocket clip, you can pull it out of your pocket easier. And if you drop it somewhere, you can't see it. As a work model, I think it's good. This blade shape, not too big. I have large size hands, but very thin, girlish fingers. So if you have bigger hands, I think it's also going to be very comfortable, but you can actually move your index finger on it, and if you have to do cuts like this where you just score something or you cut with the tip, instead of a utility blade, I'd rather have a folder like this. Like I said, for 26 euros, made pretty darn well. Because of the thickness of the grind, it's not the best slicer. So something like this, the Elementum, is about half the thickness behind the edge, and this I think has a lower edge angle than it does, so it's gonna be a much better slicer, but this can still do the job. Now there's something else that factors in here: the shape of the cutting edge. It's straight, not the best for working wood. As you can imagine, you can really take advantage of something like the belly of a knife here. And if you have also a nice distal taper, that will also help you further. This one goes in fairly well in wood, and this is dogwood, no knots. This one takes a bit more effort, and maybe there's 1 degree difference. This is maybe 14-13 degrees per side. This is 15. But the difference felt here is the thickness of the grind. If you want to take a deep bite, now, of course, you're going to have control, but with this one, less pressure, less pushing the knife back in your hand. And that's one thing, good thing that I did this exact cut, because here, with the Elementum, you have the flipper sticking out. And while I don't really like the way they designed the handle here, it does protect your hand from the flipper. You don't think this is a big deal, but if you actually do a lot of cuts in a row, cutting cardboard, you're going to appreciate the way they made the handle. It doesn't look very, I don't know, comfortable, or in a weird way that it's going to just cut, but it does. Because it has micarta handle scales, even rounded G10 handle scales will do. I find micarta much more comfortable. It does actually give you enough support and protect your hand from that nasty flipper. Because this one doesn't. Not an issue, but yeah, this micarta, the way they made it, much better. It doesn't look as good as this one. Looks much better in my opinion, but hey, taste differs. Like I said, I have to put more effort into controlling this cut because of the grind thickness. Here, it just goes through the wood much easier. And like I said, this was gonna be the one that I compare it to, and it's kind of the same. The counterpoint 1 with the Penguin. I don't know how many of you people have the counterpoint 1. This is one of those ridiculous things that Cold Steel makes. Another ridiculous folder that for me just works, and I use it as a fun knife, a test knife. And because it has this thick handle, except for these speed holes. I think it's very comfortable. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, because I mentioned the speed holes here, you don't have drilled out liners. I don't know about the weight on this. It's more than others. Here you have drilled out liners, and for most knives these days you have drilled out liners. For the QSP Penguin, you don't. Let's go over to some cardboard. As a good YouTuber, I always have some cardboard. And if you're just gonna have to do some cuts like this, really no issue. I'm going here with the grain, but you can still feel that this is a thick grind. Much less effort put in with this. Let's go to this one. Now this has a good point, so I don't know if I didn't cut cardboard, I just used it. This is gonna be much easier just because it's thinner. Now this tip is very resistant, but right near the tip, it's not that thick. I'm hoping you can see it. And the very point of it, I kind of dented that doing this sort of things, just cutting wood on this cutting board, plastic and cardboard. But yeah, for scoring, it works not as easy as, for example, my Elementum. Much easier. Because it has a thinner grind. And in this case, the belly, because if you cut like this, if you cut in hand, still, it's the thickness behind the edge. However, due to the fact that you have a almost straight edge here, there's a slight curve to it. I don't know if you guys can see it. Probably not. There's a slight curve in the blade, so you can rock it back and forth. See that? You can sharpen this very easily on a stone, like with any other grind. You can just place the entire blade on a stone and just rub back and forth. This is one advantage that you have here. You don't, and this is how much I have to raise the spine. So this is about 15 degrees per side, should you guys care. But this is one advantage it'll give you. As a work knife, I think this is actually pretty great. Let me just, but like I said, you have to angle your hand. And if you want to complete the cut, you kind of have to focus on the tip. Because if you do this, you know, with this, you're closer. See, that's the disadvantage of such a blade. Now, where a Wharncliffe begins and where a sheepfoot begins, I'm not sure. I know this is a Wharncliffe. I know this is a Wharncleaver. The same smart design that this one has, where the pocket clip goes in between the liner and the handle scale. For this one, even better, you can see because of the texture, the honeycomb texture, the screws are sunken in and goes into the pocket much easier. This is my first Wharncleaver, and it was a curiosity to see how Honey Badger does their knives and how Wharncleavers work. And I like it. HCR 13 MOB blade. Now, for more than one or two layers of cardboard, that was a considerable amount of pressure I had to exert there. If you take something thinner, I would say this was 30-40% of the effort. So a thinner grind is always going to do a much better job. And let's see something that's that I'm testing right now. This one's not even sharp. I mean, it is sharp, but it doesn't cut paper. It's sharpened plateau. So this one has a much thinner edge, but it doesn't have a sharp edge. Let me just show you this. I mean, the tip will cut, but you can not push cut. You can slice cut versus something that should actually be able to push cut into this paper, and slice cut should be no problem. This is about the same, maybe a bit more effort than this, which is sharp. But here you have a much thinner grind. With this one, it's the thickness of the grind that's going to give you the most issues. Now, if you cut with the grain, it's going to be much easier. But then again, if you go to something which is very well made, here I can tell you about 30, under 50% of the pressure you have to exert with a thinner grind. I was not impressed with the knife at first. First look, I didn't understand what all the fuss was about. And not even actually working with it, sharpening it, the edge angle was pretty close to 15 degrees per side. Didn't have to remove that much metal. What was larger was the way they micro bevel it when they put the final sharpening on it. So that was good. The grind is a bit thick, but for a working knife, D2 does excellent. Now D2 can handle a very, very thin grind. So if you just do normal tasks with it, if you don't actually cut into stuff and try to pry with the blade and twist the blade in the cut, you're not going to have problems with D2 at this level, 0.2, 0.3 behind the edge. No issue. 15 degrees per side. So, and I do enjoy how they made a few things. I mean, like I said, my Micarta handle scales, very comfortable. The way they put the pocket clip inside between the liner and the micarta handle scale, great. If they would have sunken in the screws, all the other screws are sunken in, you see that? And I like that. If they would have done that, it would have been even better. But you can't really complain about the fit and finish on this knife for $26. And I think this is a great working knife. I would have probably done a few things different, but that would probably drive the cost up. For what it is, like I said, it's not impressive until you compare it with, this is double the price. Fit and finish on this one is also good, but for double the price. And just because they're different models. Some other models, knives that are 4 times as expensive as this one, might have sharp liners, sharp edges on knives where they shouldn't be. And this one doesn't. So I am actually considering QSP and trying to see what they have, what else they have, just as a curiosity. For me, this shape is not really EDC friendly. I mean, the Chevalier is nicer. This is not something that I consider for EDC, but because of the thinness of the grind, and of course, you have the button lock, open, close, flipper, nice action, and all around. I would actually carry this as an EDC. I haven't yet because I'm testing other knives at the moment, but this wouldn't be an EDC knife, but as a work knife, yeah, I would definitely put this in my pocket. Not over the Elementum because thinner grind, better cutter, but you know, like I said, construction, carpentry, mechanic, electricians, hey, working people, you could really benefit from something like this. It's sturdy enough. It feels sturdy enough. Action's good. Maintenance, D2 is not going. I mean, maybe there are some cases where D2 rusted. I have never had a knife in D2 rust on me within normal conditions. Guys, I hope you enjoy this little sort of first look, first test video. If you did, leave your let me know. Leave your comments down below. Like, subscribe. Hey, go over to my Patreon page if you want to. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, I wish you all a great day.